Joining me now is Scott Pelley, correspondent for CBS's 60 Minutes. You've seen the play. When you watch this play, what goes through your mind about the times we're in, the times Murrow was in, the times we're in now?
Fear and courage, I think, are the two themes that run through both of these moments in American history. There was a fear in those days, of course, to speak out. There was a fear that it could ruin your career or ruin your business.
Murrow, in the play, talks about the terror is in this room.
The terror is in this room, meaning that it had gotten into everyone's head, the Red Scare. And so that, to me, has parallels today, because I sense in the country today that there is also a fear to speak, because it might wipe out your university. It might wipe out your law firm. It might ruin your career. And the theme of all of that together today is that we have to have the courage to speak as Americans. You can agree with the government or disagree with the government, but you must not be silent.
You recently gave a commencement address, and I want to play some of what you said. You talked about our sacred rule of law being under attack. Let's play that.
Our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts.
You actually haven't watched that speech.
That's the first time I've seen it since I did the speech.
What do you make of it?
Well, I think, though I am echoing the sentiments of Edward R. Murrow and Fred Friendly, that freedom of speech is what matters in this country. You can agree with the government, you can disagree with the government, but you have the right to speak, no matter what your opinion is. And that if the government begins to punish our citizens because of what they have to say, then our country has gone terribly wrong. James Madison, who wrote the Bill of Rights, of course, as you know, said that freedom of speech is the right that guarantees all the others. He thought it was that important. And that's what I was trying to convey to the students at Wake Forest.
You could have given any kind of commencement speech. You could have had some life lessons.
Not now.
Why make that speech now?
Because we have watched over the last many weeks law firms under attack, universities under attack, journalism under attack, in ways that we have not seen in this country in modern times, certainly. And because universities were being targeted in particular, I didn't think that I could stand up in front of a major university and give a speech that said, "You go get them, kids, you're the best," because it was the 900-pound gorilla on the stage, and it had to be addressed. And I wanted those graduates at Wake Forest to know that history was calling them, that now is their moment. They didn't choose this time. The times chose them, and they needed to rise up and stand up for their rights, no matter where they are in the political spectrum. Stand up for the right to speak.
Were you nervous about doing it? Obviously, this is a very fraught time for the company you work for, that I work for as well, for CBS News. There's a lawsuit by the president based on unfounded allegations. It's very likely, very possible the parent company will choose to settle this lawsuit. Were you nervous about doing it, and were you worried it might impact your ability or the way people perceived you as a journalist?
I was not nervous about doing it. I felt very strongly that this was something that needed to be said. It did not strike me that it would impact people's thought of me as a journalist, because part of that speech is a speech about freedom of speech. That should be non-controversial.
You're not actually mentioning the president by name in this. You don't refer to him by name.
I don't refer to him or the president or the White House or the administration, but I was talking about actions that have been taken by the government over these last many months. But there was a little bit of hysteria among some about this speech, and I simply asked you, what does it say about our country when there's hysteria about a speech that's about freedom of speech?
Has anything surprised you that you have been reporting on about this administration?
What has surprised me the most, Anderson, and I'm sure that this is something that you're running into, is how pervasive the fear is that when we at 60 Minutes call people and say, hey, will you do an interview with us, they're telling us no.
It's harder and harder to get people to talk about the administration on camera.
They do not want to be on camera. They do not want to stick their head up over the foxhole. And that is part of what the Wake Forest speech was all about, that we must not be in fear. This is exactly what Ed Murrow was saying in that editorial at the end of the McCarthy broadcast. We must not walk in fear of one another. We are not descended from fearful people.
Joseph McCarthy, Senator, his henchman Roy Cohn, they instilled fear in a lot of people. I mean, they terrorized people.
Absolutely, they did. And they were not solely responsible for the Red Scare. McCarthy lent his name to the Red Scare, but it existed before he came along. He just capitalized on it. And because it existed, there was fear throughout the country that it could be personally destructive, that you could lose your job, you could lose your company. And I believe that we may be moving in a similar direction in the country today. People are silencing themselves for fear that the government will retaliate against them. And that's not the America that we all love.
What do you think Edward R. Murrow would think about what's happening at CBS News today?
What a great question. His producer, Fred Friendly, became president of CBS News and quit over a disagreement about covering the Vietnam War, quit in principle. I wonder if Ed might have done the same thing given our present situation. He would probably be waiting to see how this lawsuit from the president works out and how the Paramount Corporation deals with that, whether it settles the lawsuit or whether it fights. I think that would mean everything to Ed, and I also know exactly where he would be on that question. He would be for fighting.
If there is a settlement, and as part of the settlement there's an apology, how damaging is that to CBS?
Well, it'll be very damaging to CBS, to Paramount, to the reputation of those companies. I think many of the law firms that made deals with the White House are at this very moment regretting it. That doesn't look like their finest hour.
It's been a couple of weeks since Bill Owens, the executive producer of 60 Minutes, resigned in protest. Given that it's been a few weeks, how do you see what he did now?
Well, Bill's decision to resign may not have been much of a decision for him, because he was always the first person to defend the independence of 60 Minutes. Bill didn't work for Paramount. Bill worked for our viewers, and he felt very keenly about that. And so I'm not sure Bill had any choice once the corporation began to meddle in Bill's decisions about the editorial content or just place pressure in that area. Bill felt that he didn't have the independence that honest journalism requires.
Do you still believe in journalism? Do you still believe in the role of journalists?
It is the only thing that's going to save the country. You cannot have democracy without journalism. It can't be done. The people at home need reliable, consistent information in order to make decisions about their lives and their futures and the country's future. So there is no system of democracy without journalism. We have to figure out how to keep journalism free, independent, accurate, and responsible for what it's doing. But journalism is the only profession that is protected by the Constitution of the United States. And there's a reason for that. James Madison believed that freedom of speech was the right that guaranteed all the other rights in the Bill of Rights. And so it is today.
What is your message to people about who've just watched this and are worried?
It's going to take courage, as it often has, to get through this period of American history. If you have the courage to speak, we are saved. If you fall silent, the country is doomed.
Scott Pelley, thank you very much.
Great to be with you. Thank you.